Today we have Debbie here from Verada Training, and we're going to be asking her a vital question about how we can make everyone in the business a high level performer and increase their turnover.
That's a great question. And that's always been important for retailers, hasn't it?
Yeah,
But
definitely.
particularly more today. As you'll know, there's so many more challenges now out there. And so we've always got to be thinking, how do we attract new staff? How do we keep people with us? How do we get people performing? How do we rise above all of these challenges to smash it out of the park?
And one of the biggest thing that the members come back to me on is about retaining staff.
Well, I think it's really important. It's uppermost in people's minds in it at the moment because the cost of employing people, the cost of recruitment, all the extra training time, it's really vital that we keep the staff that we've got. But research shows that the number one reason, the number one thing that you can do to retain your staff is to help them to feel engaged, help them to be valued and supported, and also well trained and challenged as well. It's the number one reason why people go. It's different to how it used to be. That's the number one factor. So to keep people with you, you need inspirational managers that lead in a very, very, very inspiring way and keep people engaged and supported.
And do you think it's changed over the years the way people manage their staff?
It's changed drastically. I have seen such a shift just in the past 5 years, particularly. And I think definitely in the retail industry, I would say management training, for example, has never really been a priority.
Yeah.
But I'll come back to that at the end because there is something called the 12% club that I
Interesting.
think that retailers will want to be a part of that can make the big difference and get you the best results. Because over the last 23 years, I've been working in the retail industry, the jewelry industry particularly, and there are definitely things that the businesses in the 12% club do that get the best results, more sustainable results. But coming back to the question you asked about, is managing people different today? It absolutely is, because certainly if you even think about the last few years, what businesses have gone through and what everybody's gone through, um, you know, pandemic, online competition, customers are less loyal than they ever were before. It's harder to get business. And so, therefore, there's a lot more pressure in the businesses today. Managers feel under more pressure. There's less stuff on the shop floor, more operational responsibilities, and actually less training. So, what I'm finding is that employees today have a lot less confidence than they used to before. They feel more intimidated, more worried, more anxious
Yeah, I
about
agree with
doing.
that.
You,
Yeah,
you've
I've witnessed that definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah, on the shop floor with being a previous manager myself, that's I can definitely relate to that, and I'm sure other people will too.
and what I'm seeing is a very big trend on managers overcompensating for this in quite a big way. So I've come up with this concept of the nurturing parent manager, where lots of managers are either worried about getting things wrong,
I was going
worried.
to say that because there's elements of HR and legal implications that I'm sure there's a lot of managers that are worried about talking to their staff.
Exactly. And sometimes they'll say to me, Debbie, how do I get somebody to smile? How do I get somebody to ask for an email address?
Yeah,
How do I get somebody to have a conversation with somebody that's not to do with the product? How do I get somebody to do a discount when they're scared? And what tends to happen is they are desperate for advice. Desperate is the word. How do I do this, Debbie?
yeah,
How do I? Is it okay? Is this going to get me into trouble? And often I'm saying, you're absolutely fine.
yeah.
So, as an example, a manager would say, oh, it'd be really good if you could greet customers. So, it'd be really good if you could, sounds like there's a choice.
How
Or,
would you word it then?
here's what I'd like you to do.
Okay.
It's straightforward. And managers are honestly saying, is that okay? That's absolutely okay, because you're being very confident with your expectation.
One thing then that I'll ask this question because I'm sure it might be on our members' kind of thought process if they're listening to this. would be, what about capturing emails? I've always seen and heard from members there's a resilience from staff members to just obtain email addresses on the POS system because it's a little bit awkward.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts on that?
You're absolutely right. In fact, only just the other week, I was talking to a client about this, and she was saying exactly the same thing. Um, Now, this is another indication of how selling has changed, because back in the day, in early 2000, nobody was asking for email addresses.
No.
Now we've got to be so much more proactive on the shop floor to capture those customers and get them to come back. But then coming back to the managers, you get the managers accepting that some people are worried to ask. And they say things like, well, just ask in your own way. Now, their own way could be, oh, would you like to go on the email list? That's not a great way to ask that
No.
question.
Yeah.
But again, it comes back down to the managers not being confident enough to say, here's how I'd like you to ask this.
I think consumers expect so much more nowadays, don't they, from retailers in terms of knowledge. Just the fact that it's perhaps a bespoke, unique piece, personalisation. There's so much more that's factored in now to a potential sale. And I think, like you said, that's probably how selling has changed over the years. So,
Absolutely. I mean, the point you made about personalization, research backs that up, because the Institute of Customer Service found in the last survey was that personalization is the number one thing customers want. So somebody wanting to connect and have a relationship and have an experience, and trust is the key thing. Because people don't like this corporate experience because
no.
it feels like it's scripted. So you get, top performer number one, who is very highly knowledgeable about watches, and that's how he gets his sales. It's his knowledge, but ability to really listen to somebody really key, but introverted. But then you get sales performer number two, who commands attention in the room, who's
Mm.
very engaging, for example. It doesn't even have to use your same personalities. So it's personalization is really important for people to trust, because otherwise they could just go online to buy.
And there's another thing that you've just brought to my mind actually is um, regards to staff. Some ladies are very very happy to sell jewellery, but may not be that comfortable or confident about selling watches, and vice versa. And that's sometimes another challenge. How would you kind of deal with that?
You're absolutely right that we've all got our things we like to sell that we like, we find it easy. And then there are other aspects of our life that we find a challenge. For me, it's changing a tire, or tech stuff, or doing flat pack furniture. I
Yeah,
avoid it like the
I
plague.
agree. I'm on the same level.
And so I'd rather give it to somebody else that
Yeah,
can do it. And this is what happens on the shop floor, isn't it? You've probably seen this. Oh, it's what we'll bring out the watch expert,
yeah.
and it does actually make sense from a business
It's
owner's
always
point of
it's
view.
not always possible to have that watch expert to
No,
hand either.
no.
So, you know,
Or the person that's great at selling
yeah,
to high net worth individuals, for
yeah.
example. So what happens is people stay often in the comfort zone. Managers today need to be able to work with staff that tend to have less confidence and overthink and worry too much. And the reason that they're overprotecting their staff, or maybe jumping in and doing things for them, or accepting their limitations, is that they don't want them to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah,
And managers saying, but I don't want people to feel uncomfortable. But anything good in life comes with feeling uncomfortable.
oh, absolutely. Look at this podcast.
Exactly. We're not probably feeling that comfortable. We'd probably feel more comfortable having a cup of tea at Starbucks.
Absolutely. Sounds like a good idea.
Everything good in life, having a baby, raising children, meeting a partner's parents, going for an interview, climbing a mountain.
Yeah,
Everything good in life comes with a discomfort. And this is the thing. Managers are protecting their staff because they worry about making them feel uncomfortable. And the problem is, if you're jumping in and doing the job that the difficult scenario, for example, the message you're giving to that staff member, I can do this, you can't.
Yeah.
So it actually
Quite a negative
decreases the
kind of,
confidence. So
yeah.
you're actually achieving a lack of confidence. And also, you're keeping them under the glass ceiling. You think about how it would be for a staff member to be under that glass ceiling where you could never be the best performer. Let's say, for example, there's a difficult scenario, whatever that might be. Could be making an outbound phone call to a customer where you're a bit scared, or asking for an email address, or holding an event, or dealing with a different customer. Rather than jumping in, the manager should say, you know what? You watch me do it. And
Yeah.
what I want you to do is watch everything that I do. I want you to watch how I use my voice, where my pauses are, my body language, the questions I ask, everything, because that's what I'd love you to do too.
Yeah. And what I love is the fact that you're talking about these areas that you can help with staff members and managers and develop this, because as an industry, we're so probably focused on product knowledge, on that kind of training, making sure that we know all of the 4 C's, etc. But the way that you could utilize that product knowledge and the way that you're talking about mindset and just how you approach different questions with a client can really prove some great results.
There are certain mindsets that need to be in place
Mm.
to be a top sales performer. So, confidence, resilience, emotional control, um, motivation, for example. There are 11 mindsets that you have to be a top performer. That very rarely factors into any training that is given for
I
sales
agree.
training.
Exactly my point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, if that's the most important thing, is to develop the mindsets of the staff, that can come with some uncomfort.
Yeah, of
And it can
course.
come with
Yeah.
really, knowledge. When it comes to learning stuff, like even how to be confident, how to be resilient, how to sell watches, anything, management, knowledge is so available now, isn't it?
Yeah.
So that's what managers should be doing, is encouraging learning, that ongoing learning themselves and for the staff as well. But getting people out of those comfort zones, because that is where the confidence really happens. When somebody's gone through that and jump through the comfort zone, once they've gone through it, they never go back.
No. And it's such a rewarding, once you know that you've accomplished something, and it's just a rewarding feeling that you've gone through that kind of barrier, where you haven't been able to do it before, and you just think, oh, good on me. And
Exactly.
not only that, hopefully it will be proven in your sales records, and things like that.
Well, absolutely, that's true. I think my best experience of that is a staff member who trying to be successful salesperson for 7 years, always struggling down at the bottom, but was really, really desiring to get to the top. So after 3 1-hour coaching sessions with this staff member who went 7 years of low sales, I identified that he had low confidence but high motivation. That's the right way around. So you can build competent confidence.
Yeah.
So I gave him some homework to do. Read everything you can about selling. Here's a book for you to listen to. Write everything down that you've learned. And he wrote 7 pages. I could not believe it. So after 3 1 hours and reading that stuff, so what happened is 6 months later, his sales doubled,
No,
doubled.
that's
And
amazing.
then 6 months after that, it doubled again. So he was eventually promoted to become manager of the flagship store. And he's still there today, 18
And
years
this comes
later.
back to the whole point we made at the start about retaining staff and growing their confidence in that way as well, isn't it? And you touched upon the 12% club.
Mm,
So just talk to me about that a little bit more.
yeah. Well, I'll start by telling you that the Institute of Leadership and Management has shown that in the UK, the amount of managers that have actually had any people management skills training is 16%. Now, I thought, interesting. I wonder if my own experience supports that. So I looked at the clients that we've worked with, and I found that 30% of the clients have took up management training, not just sales training.
Okay.
But 30% of them, most of them didn't do any substantive management training. So 12% did.
Right.
So the 12% club means these are the clients that have really took on board management training. What I mean is people at the top, the leaders, the CEO and the directors and the managers as well. Those businesses have got game-changing results.
Do you think, and this probably, again, coming back to my own experience, but do you think it's because of time? Is it time that the managers feel like they just don't have enough of that time to be able to do the training?
Time, I think, is the biggest problem right now. It's gone are the days where there is enough staff and enough revenue coming in to close the shop, which is often what used to happen, close the shop, get everybody together for a day's training.
Yeah.
Very few businesses can afford to do that, and I wouldn't want them to
No,
as well.
no.
Then you've got often less staff on the shop floor anyway. And so therefore, how can you get everybody trained at the same
Yeah.
time? So my solution, which we've been developing, spending years developing this, is creating on-demand audio, visual training, video training, which they can access 24/7. Our best performing client ever of all time, I created an audio program just for them. And I got a phone call from the director on New Year's Eve saying, we have had the best year
Oh,
ever,
good.
and it is all down to your training and coaching. And Debbie, the only regret we have is we didn't do more.
So it just shows that, you invest in people and you get the results.
I will all say to retailers is get yourself in that 12% club.
Yeah.
Be the ones that actually do this, because it's possible to multitask. You can listen to stuff whilst you're doing something else.
I think we all do it nowadays because our lives are so busy anyway.
Make
So
it subconscious.
you've made it as easy as possible, like you say, to just listen or to watch your videos and learn.
So we got the on-demand stuff, but also we give one-to-one coaching.
Yeah.
So we just this morning had a 1 hour session between 9 and 10 today, with one manager in one of our clients.
Right.
So it's completely personalized. Or we can do webinars or classroom training as well. But there's more than one choice now. There's always a flexible way to fit training in. But importantly, it's the return that you're going to get.
Yeah.
That and the knowledge that you really are doing the most for your staff.
Yeah.
Because
and they feel valued because you're investing in them. They just it just makes them feel so much more valued as a member of your business.
Yeah. So it makes them feel valued. You're going to get better results. But also it's going to help you. Really good training is going to help you to attract new recruits in your business as well.
Yeah, of course.
Because training is the number one thing that people want. They want growth.
Yeah. And what would you say the number one piece of advice that you could give our members today?
The biggest impact on successful training is having inspirational, motivational managers and leaders. That's the number one fact. That is not just Debbie Barrow Virada training that. International research shows that
they need to be part of the 12% club.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining us today and talking about your experiences through the 30 years of training and developing with businesses and staff. And we'll put all the details in our bio, and your email address we will take.
We're all in it to help retailers.
Yeah.
That's the key thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Great.
Debbie.
Thank you very much.